Hello, and welcome to another edition of Day Drinking with Kevin. I'm your host, Kevin McGuire. In today's Perspective series, we talk to Master Sommelier Jack Mason. Many of you may remember Jack from the TV documentary Uncorked. We're going to learn about how he got his start in this business and what he's been doing since the show. I can't wait to hear what he has to say. Jack, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me and our fellow day drinkers out there. There's no question that you're one of a handful of people in the world that has had that last mile of their journey to be the best at their industry documented in the level of detail that you did. But I want to go back before the documentary to that point in time where you said, not only do I want to get into this industry, but I want to dedicate myself to being the best at this industry. Is there a point in time where the light went on for you?
Yeah, so I got into it fairly young. I went straight from high school to Culinary Institute of America in Hyde Park, New York, and part of the curriculum there is a pretty intensive wines class. So I was only 20 years old. They have a dispensation for education to allow people under 21 to be able to evaluate wine, and I caught the bug. I fell in love. I thought it was so cool. The kind of the elements of history, geography, science, art, and how it all played together with food, and the role that wine can play in a dining experience. So that was my first okay, I think I really like this, but I still think I want to cook. I ended up going to Cornell after the CIA, and that's where I met Master Sommelier for the first time, Greg Harrington. And I said, you know what, that guy's pretty cool. I definitely want to learn and to be able to articulate wine like Greg does. So that was really where it started to kind of become more serious. And when I was at Cornell, I ended up taking my intro and certified exam right when I turned 21, so I could just get the ball moving. So, so that was kind of the beginning of the love for me.
From the point that you got your certified to the time, was it 2015 that you
Yes,
passed the
yeah.
Master Sommelier exam? How many years was that?
So it was about 6 years of taking the intro to passing the Master Sommelier exam. I was 27 years old when I passed.
Fantastic. And how many flashcards did that involve?
So, everyone has their own study techniques. What I tried to do, I wasn't much of a flashcard guy. And coming straight out of school, I had just been fresh in kind of how to study. And so what I kind of learned for myself was to kind of cull the information through various resources and start to kind of make condensed study sheets. And then I would take those sheets and repeat them and rewrite them. So I'm reading them, I'm writing them, I'm listening to them, and just try to get as much of the impact of the information as possible. So I wasn't much of a flashcard guy. I was more of a study sheet kind of guy.
Fantastic, fantastic. Of the three parts of the exam, which one did you find the most difficult to prepare for?
Well, I would argue that theory and tasting can take a decent amount of time similarly. So I passed my first go around service. And I felt more comfortable with something I was doing every day, and able to kind of navigate the hard questions, but also really take care of people, because that's one of the big things you're looking for. And the next year I went back and I was living in the Bronx, working in Manhattan. And so I had a lot of train time. And so I had a lot of time to just study theory and get involved with the tasting group there. So I was successful at the theory portion that year, but it took me 3 tries for the tasting portion. And a lot of it is, I'd started to feel more confident, and I would do very well in our weekly tasting group. But by the time it came to the show, it would definitely be a struggle. So part of my strategy with the tasting portion was actually kind of visualization and test prep, and kind of like with sports, you like seeing yourself being successful at it. That was a lot of it, because I would get really nervous. There was often 2 times, 2013 and 2014, where I actually I would get into wine one and I would start almost hyperventilating from nerves so much. So I would have to literally stop, take a deep breath, and refocus. And, Tim Gazer was really instrumental in really kind of just setting your mindset and your idea of creating your cockpit, your kind of safety zone. And no matter if it's 3 masters on the other side or it's your friends that you're tasting with on your weekly group, that zone will always be consistent and become kind of your harbor, your safe space. So that was really helpful in that. So for me, the tasting was obviously getting the reps in and getting the taste markers and sensory evaluation piece down, but more so was about managing nerves and stress. It's a mental game, you feel like you smell one thing and it can take you in a totally different direction. And so just being confident in the work you put in, and being confident in your cockpit and your visualization of being successful. So
Absolutely. I hope you know that when the show came out, you had a cheering section here in the Washington, D.C. area that was rooting for you each week. And when the last show came and you passed, we had a party and we celebrated your accomplishments.
Oh my gosh, Kevin, that's so cool. Thank you.
Yeah. I think it was a combination of your values and your faith that really made you personable to the people in our industry, and it made you easy to cheer for. So we're very excited about you passing. And
thank you, and I'm very grateful for the opportunities I was given to get there. And faith definitely is a big piece of it, and being able to trust in not my will but the Lord's will. It's definitely like that was a big piece of 2015. It was just like, this is for you, and if it's not successful, that's just not what this year's about. So that was really cool. So thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
I forgot what I was going to say. Never mind. Oh, I was going to say, when they made the show, though, it was kind of funny. Like, they built these kind of fake competitions and those sorts of things. And, I've never been more of the competitive guy. And so I wasn't very successful on the show. And you could tell that they were kind of writing the show to augment certain people to, kind of put them forward. And then they had to like do a huge 180 when the results came in, so it's kind of funny.
Oh, absolutely.
Background story of it.
Jeff, there's no question that 2020 was a year to remember for a lot of people. How has 2020 affected you, and how do you think that our industry will come out of where we have been and be stronger as a result?
Yeah, so I mean, 2020 was difficult, to say the least. I worked for a restaurant group, and when all the restaurants got shut down, we all got furloughed. And so, and to kind of see that happen, where you work kind of in whatever fields, you're working to try to be as successful and grow as much as possible, and to then have that entire industry just disappear, it's pretty hard, And so, we get my buddy, Steve McDonald, he's a fellow MS here in Houston. We just kind of hit the ground and kind of leaned into our community. We have an incredible collector community here in Houston, and they were all just so supportive. And so we started, cleaning up cellars and helping, these guys think about the way to kind of continue their purchasing, and, just finding odds and ends, doing dinners, all kinds of things. So it became just a kind of a hustle of, hey, can I make enough money to, keep the lights on in the house this month? But as the restaurant started to come back, Stephen went back to Pappas, and I continued to kind of do that hustle because my job was sort of an overlay of 3 steakhouses. I wasn't directly tied to daily operations. So I understood that they kept pushing and waiting and, kind of saying, hey, like, we have until the end of the year. Here's your note from HR, like we're going to bring you back, but I'm just kind of waiting. And it kind of started to make me think and evaluate like, what would these next couple of years look like in that group, in that restaurant? And so I started to look at other opportunities, and, distribution has always been there, but not one that I was like, hey, I think that this is where my heart is, and that's where. But I joined RNDC in November, and I'm really, really enjoying it. It's really cool to see kind of the function that the distributor can play. You're usually in a rock and a hard place, because you have suppliers who are mad at you, you have restaurants who are mad at you, that sort of thing. The distributor kind of takes both sides of it, but it's really cool to now kind of take the way of looking at building wine lists and kind of working with other wine directors and say, hey, like how can I help you navigate these sorts of things? Because once you get to my first job, I had John Reagan helping kind of being overlooked to building the program at Marta in New York. But really, like, a lot of people don't have those kind of opportunities to have those sort of mentorship and those sorts of things. So I think it's kind of cool that now I'm not tied to any one location or any one kind of area. I can kind of walk around and help people reevaluate and continue to build their list. So I'm really enjoying getting to work with everyone, and the community here has been really receiving. That was a big fear of mine, because there's an identity of the distributor being the dark side, right? And I understand that, but I also think that there's different ways to work in distribution, and I'm grateful for the way RNDC has been really allowing me to kind of pave a road and utilize relationships that have been built over lots of years to now support both sides, right? Support the restaurant, support the distributor. So I'm really enjoying it. Been doing a lot of wine dinners and events and all kinds of stuff. So Texas is basically reopened. And so everyone's ready to get out of the house and get out and go. A lot of vaccinations have happened. So they're kind of chomping at the bit, and a lot of restaurants are doing very, very well. So
here in DC on Saturday, the bar seating just opened up again, and we're able to go to a bigger capacity than we had. And we did a rosé festival on Saturday that sold out in 36 hours. And I was so excited about that, just because it's been 14 months since we were able to do something like that.
Well, people are hungry and they're ready. And I mean, they haven't used that budget, if they've been able to continue working and haven't been able to go out, they're like ready to go, okay, let's do this, So it's really cool to see. And people want experiences, those kinds of tastings, events, dinners. Like, people are like, yes, this is awesome. It's dinner and a show, right? Like, it's more than just eating a meal at home and maybe watching a Zoom, because there was a lot of people doing that, kind of pivoting towards that. But to have more of the communal aspect and have the stories being told. So they've been doing really, really well in Texas.
Glad to hear that. I think it was Dustin Wilson who said that once you become a master sommelier, that is not the end of your journey, but almost the beginning. Because now you're put up on a pedestal and everybody is looking at you as the font of all information and knowledge about wines. Do you find that? And how do you keep yourself up to date on all of the changes in the wine industry?
Well, that definitely is the way I feel and felt after passing, that the responsibility now was much greater, because the way people view you and look at the questions that they ask you. And so, it's definitely like keeping up with everything that's going on, but also kind of, now that you've kind of gotten the broad base taken care of, honing in on specific things that really you're passionate about and just driving them home. So, for me personally, things like Champagne, Burgundy, Italian wines of the Rhone Valley, like just really jumping into these sorts of things, because, where there's passion, that excitement comes, and it all kind of works together. So it's definitely keeping a pulse on the market, reading, the daily sort of what's going on. But then also, to me, it's becoming a little bit more specific in certain areas to even master them, like completely, right? Like really jump in head first. And I think that's what the program helps prep you for is building those relationships, building those study techniques, and then really finding those areas that you can just lean into and really drive with. So
Fantastic. I don't think there's anybody in our industry that I've asked, tell me about a favorite bottle of wine or a favorite moment in your wine career that hasn't remotivated you and re-energized you to say, yes, I still love this industry. Is there a favorite wine, region, moment, event that you say, hey, this is one of my favorites of all time?
yeah, so myself, Steve McDonald, and my buddy who also works at Pappas, Bill Elzey, had the great pleasure and honor of getting to go visit Jean-Louis Chave in Hermitage. And, we were expecting a, regular kind of 1 to 2 hour sort of tour, tasting, that sort of thing. Well, we ended up spending 7 hours with Jean-Louis, driving all the way around Hermitage and Saint Joseph and seeing everything that he's doing and understanding his mindset and his philosophy, and then getting to taste the wines and have lunch with him. And I think we all will say that that's one of the greatest wine moments we've all had. It was just such an honor and so cool to see his philosophy. And then the wines obviously are pretty good. We all kind of point to that as being like, man, this is what it's all about. It's relationships, it's understanding the history, the geography, the art, the science, like I said before, like all those things come into play, and to see it all kind of come to fruition in a nice 7 hour visit with Jean-Louis, it was really beautiful.
Well, that was definitely a once in a lifetime experience. I'm into
yeah. Well, he did promise, because we started asking about Cuvée Catalan. He was like, well, that's for the next trip. And we're like, okay, great. Yeah, okay. We'll be back. Don't worry.
When should I be there?
Yes, exactly.
Absolutely. My day drinkers that watch this YouTube channel are people looking to break into this industry, maybe people that are in the industry that want to advance themselves, and some people that are on that last mile of their journey to get to where you are now. What words of wisdom or motivation can you give them to help push them along the way, to help them be successful in what they're wanting to do?
Yeah, no, totally. I think humility is probably the biggest word I would use. Is just, there's always going to be someone who knows more or has tasted more or had more experiences with things, but kind of just walking into every situation and saying, what can I learn from this? What can I take away? Especially if, younger sommeliers, they've had chances of glimpses of wine buying and those sorts of things. It's just like, hey man, like take a step back and find a mentor, find someone to like really help kind of guide you along the path and build those relationships and show you the interaction, because this business, like most businesses, is all about relationships. It's all about connections. It's all about the people that you've kind of grinded it out and done the work with. And so building those is really key to success. So always not being the one to know it all, but being the one to be able to say, hey, like I heard this, but what else has been your experience over the years? Even people, there's a lot of like, well, especially in New York, a lot of people don't have anything to do with the Court of Master Sommeliers, and they're incredible wine professionals, and they've been doing it a long time. And so it's like, we're all here to learn from each other. The ultimate goal is to share our love and passion of wine with other people. So, having an arrogance or a know-it-all ability doesn't really play to that ultimate and final goal. So I think that that's probably my biggest kind of just like walk into every situation and see what you can take from it, because there's so much opportunity out there. You just have to absorb it,
And I think it's probably that sense of humility that has led you to be the success that you are. So what's next for Jack Mason? What's on the horizon?
Well, like I said, my foray into distribution is kind of a whole new path that I never knew I would go on, and really am enjoying it. Getting to work alongside the state team and really look at, hey, what are producers? What are styles of wine? What are suppliers that we should be looking at and working with to help continue to build the impact of RNDC in Texas and nationally, to be honest. And so I really am enjoying that piece of it. It's kind of like working as a wine director on the state level, right? Like in a restaurant, you can have a great relationship and impact with a winery, but that only goes so far. And when it's not one unit or multi-units of a restaurant group, but a whole state, like it's so cool to see the impact that you can have for a winery and a winery's family and all that sort of stuff. So I'm really enjoying seeing how that part of the job goes and leaning into that a little bit more. So the long-term answer is I don't know. I'm enjoying the distribution piece. Ownership of some sort has always been in my kind of goal of wanting to grow, just to be able to like utilize the back of house experience, front of house experience, and just overall relationships in the wine business to then build some sort of retail wine bar restaurant sort of a thing. Because I still do have a passion for food and for the kitchen. So that goal year by year continues to kind of just like, okay, well, we'll get there, and those relationships of being built of people interested in working together. So I think ultimately that will be the end all be all, but for right now, play around in distribution.
Fantastic. Jack, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me and my fellow day drinkers out there. It has been an honor to talk with you, and I really appreciate your perspectives on becoming a master sommelier, your journey to get there, and I think we're all continuing to root for Jack Mason in everything that you do. I wish you all the success in the world. I wish you health and happiness in your future endeavors. And next time you're in the DC area, my wine cellar is open to you 24/7. Please don't hesitate to stop by and let's raise a glass together and celebrate all that is good in the wonderful world of wine.
Heck yeah, that sounds great. I look forward to it. Thank you, Kevin, for having me. This is really fun to chit chat. And yeah, if you have any questions, like reach out. I'm here. So
fantastic. Jack, thanks so much for taking the time to speak with me today. Your passion and enthusiasm and humility show through in everything that you do. If you like this episode, please don't hesitate to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to Day Drinking with Kevin. And if you have ideas for future episodes, please email me at daydrinkingwithkevin@gmail.com. Until next time, I say, salute.